forward to Sunday now, eh? As many as you know, we have an unwritten mission in F1 in schools, and I reiterate this in various events. It's basically all down to what you've shown so far this week: teamwork, friendship, fair play, which is extremely important, but more important than that is sportsmanship. In fact, we have an award for Sportsmanship Award on Wednesday evening. I'll give you an example of that from last year. And now every second counts. The winner at the awards on Wednesday evening could be determined by as little as 1 point. Pretty much like last year. There was a quarter-final knockout last year, the knockout event, maximum of 10 points, and you wouldn't think it mattered that much. But when it got to the quarter-final stage, there's only a handful of us, in fact, probably less than that, a couple of us knew that probably whoever won that quarter-final race between the Aussies and the Irish would potentially go on and take the crown of world champions. And the Irish won that race by 0.003 of a second, just by the reaction time, because the Aussies' car was faster. The Aussies, unfortunately, have always done well in Formula One in schools, unlike cricket. But they've won quite a few awards, and when the awards came on the final day, the second place announcement was made, and the Aussies walked up, and you would really have thought they'd lost the Ashes. The faces were etched with disappointment because they were there to win and become world champions. And they walked onto the stage and they took the second place podium. And like probably a lot of people in that audience, I felt quite sorry for them. Probably like the first time I felt sorry for an Australian, really. But then the announcement was made who'd become world champions, and of course the Irish name came up and the Irish kids walked on stage, and I looked at the Australians and every single one of them walked over, shook their hands, put a smile on, and gave them a hug, and applauded the crowning of the world finals. I thought that was fantastic, and that's what really I think it's all about for you guys, to be gracious in defeat, but obviously if you win, make the most of it. The following day, I was on the same coach going down to McLaren, and the Aussies were sat with the Irish, and they were swapping stories, swapping, no doubt, Facebook accounts and ideas of how to make an even faster car. So, learn from that. It is all about trying to win and trying to win prizes, but, remember that at the end of the day, you're all here as champions in your own right. So, I just want to think about for the rest of the week. Now, I was kind of taught when I was going through school, which is quite a good thing, really. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And you guys being here, and hopefully some of you, when you win your Formula One trophies, will get into the paddock to meet the teams. You'll meet people that you wouldn't even imagine you would meet. And I'll give you an example of that. Kelly, do you want to stand up? You met Kelly yesterday. So, sit down now. This time last year, she met Tony Fernandez, from the owner of AirAsia and Lotus Formula One, and made a big impression. Kept in contact. She was invited down to Silverstone to the British Grand Prix. The BBC gave her a microphone, and she interviewed Mike Gascoigne, Adrian Newey, Rob Smedley, and Ross Brawn. And, of course, she met Tony again. And he hasn't forgotten Kelly, and he's invited her out here, flown her out on AirAsia, so she's got a great week before she starts university, incidentally, to take up engineering, which, again, is another tick in the box for F1 in schools. And who knows, you might get a job one day at Lotus Formula One. She's met the right people in that company right to the very top. So make the most of every single person you meet, because you never know where that might take you. Get your contacts, exchange your business cards. You've all got them, or some of you have got them. And make new friends. You never know. Our mission of a life-changing experience could well be that. So all I can say is pretty much what most people will be saying to you. Hopefully that the best team will win, but enjoy every single minute of this week. So we've got some awards here. There's a Bernie Ecclestone World Champions Award. One of you will be lifting that at the Conrad. There's 10 of those from Formula One teams, and you'll meet those people, or some of those people on Wednesday evening, and then, of course, as I said before, in the paddock, you'll also meet some of the teams. So we need to get on with the judging. I'm delighted to say we've got a very, very respected individual who's our chair of judges. He's got 38 years of experience in Formula One. He's worked for Mr. Eccleston, worked alongside Eddie Jordan, and was responsible 22 years ago for spotting a young German driver who became 7 times world champion, Michael Schumacher, of course, the patron of the German team. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, can you put your hands together, please, for Gary Anderson?
Morning, everyone. It is a real pleasure to be here. I must admit, I'm very impressed by the team. Andrew and his group of guys have really put together a fantastic operation here, and it's so good to see such an insight into what the future could bring for some of you guys. And really, you know, going back on what Andrew said, what you have here, the teamwork, everything, is just so like the real thing. Whenever you consider that, you know, a typical Formula One car, a team would have their new car sitting on its wheels come the beginning of January. They test it up to the first race in March. They go racing for 2 or 3 months and recognise all the deficits that's in that car, or hopefully recognise all the deficits, start to redesign in July, manufacture in September, new car sits on the ground again in January, and off you go in the same cycle. Every time you put a new car down on the ground, you just feel this is the best thing you've ever done. And the reality of it is, by July, you know that you can do better. You always, always know you can do better. And you have to just keep pushing the limits. And the opportunity you have here to do that and work as a team of people, to bring in the finance, to design the car, to race the car, to recognize your deficits, it's just, you know, it's exactly the same of the inside of a Formula One team. It's just, there's absolutely nothing different. So, you know, every time you put the car on this track, you just have to learn from it. You have to learn how you would do something that little bit better, how you'd move the car forward that little bit, or how your team would work together a little bit better. And as I say, to have this opportunity for you guys at your age now, I just wish I'd had that opportunity 30 years ago or something. It just didn't exist. You know, then you left school at 15, got a job and hoped that you could get somewhere. But the highs that you're going to get here and the lows are just the same as the McLaren, Ferrari, Williams, Force India teams will get whenever they start practicing racing at the weekend. So there really is no difference in what you're doing and what they're doing. It's just highlights, excitement, disappointment. You saw Lewis Hamilton there a minute ago. You know, after Spa, he was just jubilant. Some of the other races where he crashed, like Hungary, or the car broke down in Hungary, or he crashed in Monza on the first lap, it wasn't the same Lewis Hamilton. So those are the highs and lows that you can experience in Formula One, the same as you guys will experience. And you'll have the big adrenaline rush whenever your car's going down the track, the same as they'll have during qualifying, every member of the team. So really, you know, from my point of view, over the years I've been involved in Formula One, it's about enjoyment. You have to try and enjoy every minute of it and use it to step forward. And if you can do that, you really will do a good job. So all the best to everyone, and may the best team win. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson and Mr. Danford. I would now like to introduce our guest of honor, His Excellency Paul Madden, British High Commissioner, to address us.
Principal Chair, competitors, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be here. When you're a High Commissioner, you get all sorts of interesting invitations and requests. And a few years ago, one of my predecessors got a call from the Straits Times, which is the local newspaper here, just before Christmas, And they said to him, "What would you like for Christmas?" Well, he was quite a modest man, so he said, "I'll just have a small box of chocolates, please." A few days later, the newspaper wrote the story, and they said, "We asked a number of the leading ambassadors in town, what was their wish for Christmas?" Well, the American ambassador said he'd like to see peace in the Middle East. The Chinese ambassador said he'd like to see an end to hunger in Africa. And the British High Commissioner said he'd like a small box of chocolates. But first of all, welcome to Singapore to all of you. I know that it's been very competitive to get this far to the finals, so you're all already winners, so many congratulations. And welcome to this fantastically interesting city of Singapore. As you saw from the dances earlier on, Singapore is a meeting place of many cultures. It's a meeting place for the Asian cultures, Chinese, Indian and Malay, but also for a very diverse community from all over the world. It's also one of the most fascinating, dynamic economies in the world. It has the 4th highest per capita GDP in the world. And a big part of that success story is the emphasis that it puts on science and engineering. And that's in its educational institutions, places like Ngee Poly, which is hosting this great occasion today. Well, Singapore is hosting F1 for just the 3rd time this year, but already it's become a very prominent spot on the F1 circuit with its iconic night race through the city streets. And you will have seen the fences up already and the lights turning night into day. Britain has a long association with F1, and that's not just due to Bernie Ecclestone or to Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton, but it's also for the strength of the precision engineering which lies behind it. In the what we call Motorsports Valley, just to the west of London, there are about 5,000 people working on motorsports. And I think 8 of the 12 teams have a technology base in the UK. Well, as the British High Commissioner, I'm particularly pleased to see teams here from England, from Wales and from Northern Ireland. But it's also good to see all of you from whichever countries you come. I hope you're going to have a great time in Singapore. I hope you're going to enjoy the competition. And now it's my great pleasure to pronounce that the F1 in Schools World Championship Singapore 2010 is officially open. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. So to do us the honor of flagging off and officially launching the F1 in Schools World Finals 2010, it's my pleasure to invite the British High Commissioner, His Excellency Paul Madden, the Principal of Ngee Polytechnic, Mr. Chia Mia Chiang, and Chairman of F1 in Schools Limited, Mr. Andrew Danford. So let's put our hands together to welcome them.
That's right, this is going to be the first race that kicks off the World Finals, and we're going to have the competition proper in just a bit. So right now our guests will be briefed on how it works, and we're going to have a race-off between our principal, Ngee Polytechnic's principal, Mr. Chia Mia Chiang, as well as His Excellency British High Commissioner Paul Madden, and Andrew Danford will be flagging them off.
Are we all ready?
Now, for those of you who don't know about these cars can actually go as fast as under 1 second. The current record stands at 1.02 seconds. We might see a record-breaking race in this finals. And they're ready. You're going to flag off.
Watching out for the lights now.
And there we go. And our winner, Mr. Chia Mia Chiang. Big round of applause.
Big round of applause.